This is our project typewriter. I'm Hannah Dunleavy.
And I'm Jasmine Pallett.
I'm a junior at Algonquin Regional High School.
And I'm a sophomore.
Co-designer introduction. Our co-designer is a male at our high school. His name is Kevin, and he works one-on-one with an aide. Some of his specific challenges are hyperflexive joints and visual impairments, and these challenges make it difficult for him to type. His current solution that they are using at his school is to add these keyboard stickers to add more of a contrast in between the letters and the keys, but it's not really working too well, so they're searching for an alternate solution. User need statements. The user's hands sometimes block the letters on the keyboard. The user has low vision. The user has difficulty finding letters on the keyboard. The user wants to increase independence while using the keyboard. The keyboard needs to be used for various students, and the user needs to be able to simultaneously hold the shift key and press another key. Product background, past solutions. Like I explained earlier, the student is currently using these keyboard stickers that they're putting on top of the keyboards, and they also have a Keymaster keyboard where each letter of the key lights up individually. Some of the issues with the solution is that multiple students are learning how to type their names, and they only need to have a few letters visible at a time. However, the current Keymaster keyboard that they're using, it has all the letters lit up at once, and they're small, and it's hard to see for the students. So some of the modifications of our product is going to be to modify the existing Keymaster keyboard to make it easier for the students to see the specific letters they need. Product requirements. The keyboard letters need to be bigger. The keyboard needs to be bright. Contrast colors needed for the keyboard. Individual keyboard letters need to have the ability to turn on and off. The keyboard needs to be easy to use. The keyboard should not require additional assistance to function properly. Product objective. The objective of this project is to modify the existing Keymaster keyboard in order to make the letters more visible and easier to find for the co-designer. Product risk. The keycaps are 3D printed, meaning they could break if extensive pressure is applied. The apertures and the tops of the keycaps might not fully let through the light, and the holes may be too distracting for the student even when the light is not on.
Here's a visual representation of one of our initial prototypes. On the top left, you can see the CAD design of how we created the keycap. On the bottom, you can see one of our initial sketches. One of the issues we had to deal with was the fact that in normal keycaps, the post that attaches the key to the keyboard goes straight to the top. Since we needed to cut a hole in the top of our key, we had to work around this. As you can see, we created 4 different supports that attached to the post in the middle so that we didn't have to attach it to the top. Here are some of our preliminary prototype objectives. We had to create a keycap that could fit onto the Keymaster keyboard, create a top to the keycap that allows more light to shine through, and to make the letter more visible. We also needed to find an alternative way to attach the keycap to the keyboard. Here are some pictures of our preliminary prototypes. You can see that it took many different versions to get one that fit correctly on the keyboard. Some of them were too thin in some places, and some of them were too thick in some places and wouldn't fit in right. Other ones were too fragile and broke too easily.
Results of first prototype. Many of the first prototypes would not fit on the keyboard, so modifications were made until the preliminary prototypes fully fit the base of the keyboard. Then a keycap top was created to let light shine through, and this would need to be separately attached. Improvements for hi-fi. Add a translucent layer to help better diffuse the light better. Add a layer of thin plexiglass on top of the keycaps to produce a smooth surface, and try using different colors of filament to see which hides the keyboard letters when the keyboard is off and highlights them when the keyboard is on. Hi-fi prototype objectives. Create a key with a clear inside to increase brightness. Create an outer shell that stops the brightness from bleeding through. Make the surface of the key smoother for the user.
Here's some hi-fi prototype pictures. As you can see, we modified the initial prototype from 4 supports to 3 supports. This let more light through as light was in the top half of it, so it was no longer blocked directly by a post. Additionally, we started making 2 different layers, so the inner shell would be completely clear, so it would let more light through. You can see that on the right, and the outer shell would be an opaque filament, such as gray or black. This would stop light from coming through the sides. You can also see that we attached a top to the outer shell. Now, we decided that instead of creating a fully cleared hole, we would just remove some of it. This would create a very smooth surface on the top of the key for the user. These are the results of the second prototype. We found that it definitely worked a lot better for letting more light through, as it was no longer obstructed by posts and opaque filament on the inside. We did realize that the top shell and the inner shell would have to be secured using some type of adhesive, and that adds time to the project as we would have to do that for every single key involved. However, we did think that this kind of accomplished a lot of the goals of the project as it made the keys bigger and more visible than they were originally. Here are some next steps. Obviously, we need to print and design keycaps for all the letters. This entails recatting the keycaps with different letters on them, printing them out, and assembling them together. The other issue that we need to work on is thinking about possibly redesigning it for different shaped keys. Obviously, on a keyboard, there's your standard key, and then there's ones of different sizes. However, we need to discuss with the client to see if it's really necessary to change those other keys as well, or if they're doing their job as is. Finally, we want to test out different filament colors to see which ones block the light better and which ones are better visible to the student. We were also thinking about instead of creating letters, for instance, on top of some special keys, we could just make them colored. For instance, the student needs to use the shift key a lot. So by making the shift key red or a different color, it can make it easier for the student to find and use. Finally, the last step we need to do is consult with the co-designer again and hopefully a couple more times to get more feedback on our product. During this stage, we can figure out which one of these next steps is most important to the user and prioritize that over the other steps. Overall, this version seemed to accomplish a lot of our goals, and we were very happy with the results. Finally, some of our billing information, which you can see here, that the keyboard we modified was around $66, and the two filaments we bought were about $18 and $16 each. Thank you so much for listening to our presentation.